metal roll supply for repair shop in Harbor, Quebec. Hello there everybody and welcome to a very special episode of SnowRunner here at Quebec Gaming. Today we just left the factory in our Avenhorn A15 with a long 5-slot cargo trailer, flatbed trailer, with 5 rolls of metal on it. Now behind us we've got a Sleiter ST 816 Elephant with the same trailer and the same amount of rolls on the back. Now let me explain. We've got a couple of jobs coming up where we have to craft metal piping for different jobs in Tidal, I believe. And we need metal rolls so that we can craft these metal pipes, but we got to bring them over to the repair shop. Now I went down with the Avenhorn in this here long flatbed trailer as we're trying to pull that slider around the corner, and I loaded up with 5 rolls, and I saw the slider sitting there, and I thought, you know, let's make this a test. Let's equip both trucks the same trailer, same amount of rolls of metal, and let's see how far I can get the Avenhorn to pull the slider down the road. I want to see how strong the Avenhorn really is. So we hook her up with the winch. Now, in all fairness, I did turn on the motor on the slider, making it a little bit easier, but it is a pretty long progression coming down the road here. So we're going to go extra slow, take our time, and there's going to be a few places like we just had there around the rock where sometimes it's really difficult to pull the vehicle or pull anything around a corner, because the winch points on the back of the trailer are on either corner, they're not in the middle, and the winch points in the truck are on either side too. So depending on which points you use, sometimes your trailer or truck you're pulling behind you is offset a little bit from where you are. Anyhow, we're going to do our best and we're going to move along here, and it seems like the Avenhorn is doing pretty good. Now the Avenhorn's got chains on, and we are driving on an ice road. The Slider doesn't have chains, but he does quite well on the ice roads, as long as you take your time, which is about the only way we're going to be able to accomplish this task, because we started at the factory and we're just heading a little bit over from the far right hand point of the map, and we're coming up at an angle, and we're going to go over to the oil refinery first. That's the first step. Now the oil refinery is in the top right hand corner of the map, and we got to go all the way across to the top left hand corner of the map, and then we got to come down the map a little way. So it's quite a lengthy video, a little bit longer than I normally put up, but well worth the watch, well worth to see the comparison between one and the other, and to see how well they actually do. Like, this is more of a comparison video than anything else, but at the same time, I'm resupplying the repair shop with 10 rolls of metal, which is going to keep us rolling for a little while crafting pipes for the upcoming projects. So that's a good thing. Now we're coming up to one of the bridges that we repaired earlier on in the game. That took quite a bit of work, and once we cross this bridge on the other side, we're going to have to make, well, not quite a hairpin turn to the right, but a fairly tight turn to the right. And we're not going to be able to pull everything around the corner. It's just not going to happen. It's too tight of a turn. So we're going to, whenever there is an area that's really difficult, or it's just not going to work because it's too tight of a turn or whatever, I'm just going to let the slider go, and I'll move the Avenhorn forward to where I think it can do the job again, and then we'll hook up again and we'll continue on, and we'll keep going like that until we are where we're supposed to be, the repair shop, delivering these rolls of metal. Like I said, this is the first difficult corner. Now when you're coming down, as soon as you come around the corner, there's a detour. Now there's 2 ways you can go. You can take the detour, which goes to the right and then up and then back up again, joining on to the oil refinery where we're trying to get to. Or we can just go over to the side here and drive through the snow slide. Now, it's tough enough trying to pull the trailer through here. I wasn't going to try and pull the slider through here too. Plus you're going back and forth, so I figured, well, take each individual truck through here, get them into the oil refinery parking lot, and then we'll hook back up again. In the meantime, if you ever want to go through here, you can see there's little pines sitting there. And if you drive on the low end of these piles of snow, right over top of these trees, which do not present any kind of a problem, you can keep your truck fairly level, and it's fairly doable with the Avenhorn anyhow, for sure. And the slider will come through here too, not a problem. Now with smaller trucks or different trucks, of course, it could be a different situation, but the point is you've got trees close by, and if you do get stuck, you can always hook your winch onto something, pull yourself free, and then you're going again. So we're going to pull her out of the snow here, and then head on over into the side of the courtyard of the Quebec petrol oil, I'm not sure exactly what it's called. It's the oil refinery in Quebec, and it's just up ahead here. So going this way instead of taking the detour around down the bottom, this is probably a quarter of the time it would take you to go the other way. So it's a lot quicker and it's not that difficult. But you can try the other direction if you choose. I mean, if you have a truck that can go through this snow, it'll go through the detour also. Now we're going to put the truck just to the outside on the way going out, so that we're at least in sort of a straight line. And we're going to park her right here, and then we'll move the slider up. There we go. Now with the slider too, I found during this trip, the slider can do everything that the Avenhorn can, obviously, we all know that. Now the problem with the slider is that it's only got the crane, the high saddle, and then whatever we've got for supplies and fuel repair points on top of the roof. That's all it's got for addition. So you don't have anything else. You got the biggest tires in the game, but you got no chains. So you got a very powerful motor. I've got the better gearbox where I can go into the high range or low range or the low gear, but I didn't install it because I prefer this gearbox better. It seems to work good for me. I don't need that other gear, so I do most of my work in the slider in automatic. Anyhow, I found that the slider has more power than the Avenhorn. The slider can go faster than the Avenhorn, but speed and more power isn't always the thing that puts one truck over top of another. Because the Avenhorn, when you put it in the high range of the low gear, it just chugs through no matter what. So you might go a little bit slower, but you know you're going to get there. So that's just a little bit of the difference between the two trucks. As far as pulling a trailer with all this weight's concerned, they're both very capable. Now that we've pulled this one a little bit on the highway with the Avenhorn, now we're going to see if we can pull it a little ways in snow, in deep snow, and through cross country. As soon as we get the slider up behind the Avenhorn here, when we pull it through the plant of the oil refinery, we'll go back up to it again, and then we're going to be dragging it through some deeper snow and mud. And we'll see how the trucks react to that. Now we're, in all fairness, again, like I said, we're going to leave the engine of the slider going, so it does help quite a bit, obviously, rather than pulling a dead weight vehicle. But I bet you any money that if we had the Mercer K520 trying to do this, I don't think it would work out all that well. So we're now in snow country, and we're traveling across the top of the map from the right hand side to the left. And as you all know, once we get through this first little section, well, when you're about halfway to, a little bit over halfway across the width of the map, we come up to the little frozen lake. That is going to pose a whole new problem again. But we'll get to that when we get to that. First, we got to get through this mud and this snow, and then this little mud pit at the end. Now, the Avenhorn seems to be doing okay, but we haven't looked back. Maybe we lost a slider somewhere. Maybe that's why he's running so good. Now, take this a little wide, because you got to remember, you got 2 trucks and 2 trailers, and that's quite a lengthy vehicle and trailer that you got. So, even taking it as wide as I could here, I should have maybe gone a little straighter here, but she's going to rub up against that pine on the left-hand side of the back, and I'm just hoping that the slider don't get caught on that. Oh yeah, he's got he grabbed hold of a little bit of it. And maybe he's even going to grab the trailer. She's bouncing the tree around. There we go, but he broke loose. Just able to get it by there. Now you're just going to keep her going wide, because otherwise it's going to cut on the inside there. And now up ahead here, when you first get to the frozen lake, there's 2 ways you can go. You can go over the lake right away, or you can stay on this rocky little ridge. And the lake over there is pretty dicey, so I always I stay on the little ridge. But that little ridge's got a really tight corner, and you can barely get around it with a truck and a trailer, let alone try to pull something around that corner. But you'll see in a second here when we get there. Just up ahead, I see the sun is starting to go down. Well, I tell you, it's taken us a long time to get this far. Now, as you can tell, I'm trying to stay a little bit wider to the left, but it's not going to do me any good, because this turn is just too tight. Look at that. It even looks like I'm almost starting to slide off the rocks. Let's reposition it. But there's no way we're going to be able to pull the slider around the corner, so we might as well just let it go. Pull it a little closer. See, now my trailer is stuck on that rock too. Okay, and we're best off just to let the slider go. We'll pull the Avenhorn all the way over to the port, to the entrance of the port, because there's probably no way you're going to pull that slider over the ice, because it's going to be going into the holes, because it'll be behind your trailer, right? So we'll just drive it over by itself. Like I said, with really difficult areas, it doesn't matter who's pulling, it doesn't matter how much power you got, you're not going to be able to do this, because it's going to fall, everything behind you might fall into those holes. So we're not even going to bother trying that. We're just going to get the Avenhorn over the ice. There again, if you've been watching any of my videos, you see the little white lines going down on that glossy black ice that shows that it's frozen solid. So you try to run on that, and you should be okay. There's the entrance to the port. Just climb it out of here, and then we'll bring the slider up. And even here, I think I'm just going to drive them individually all the way to, well, I got to get them over to the bottom of the hill on the other side of the port here yet, and then we got to climb up the hill yet. So we still got a little ways to go. And here, and there again, if you compare driving across the ice, the Slider's tires are a little bit bigger than the Avenhorn, but both trucks are pretty good on the ice, and if you do fall through a little bit, like I said many times before, you can either back out or you can, you know, change direction a little bit, and if it doesn't fall too deep, you can go right through it, which is the advantage of having bigger ice, or bigger tires, sorry, and being able to, with the Sleiter, having the active suspension where you can raise your whole truck up, which is kind of nice. It helps out in certain situations. Here we are back to the ice, and we're just going to follow the same path that the Avenhorn went. There again too, if you compare the way they drive, the way they pull, the way they maneuver, everything about them, they're very, very similar, with the exception of I believe that the Sleiter is a little bit more powerful with the engine, a little bit more torque. But then again, the Avenhorn makes up for it by having chains on its tires and having a whole different amount of add-ons that you can add to it, which really makes it a more versatile truck than the Sleiter. But like I always say, right truck for the right job, and sometimes you need a certain truck with a certain add-on, and if it's a truck that needs to pull a lot of weight and you need a high saddle, the Sleiter is one of the trucks that can do that job for you very well. Now we've moved back into the Avenhorn A15, and we're going to pull him ahead all the way to where we got to climb up the hill to get over to the repair shop. Now it's not too far away, it's just on the other side of the port here. And obviously if I wanted to, I could have pulled the Sleiter through this area here, but right on the other side of the port you're going to run into a few problems again, so I figured I'd just drive them individually. And the exit is right over here. Well, we're moving right along. Boy, I tell you, we're going to get 10 rolls of metal over down at the repair shop, which is really going to help us out in the long run. Well, some of these jobs here, especially when you start getting along in completing your maps, some of the jobs you need to get other material before you can even have the item that you need to go and deliver, right? So, and this happens to be one of them. And I just wanted to try the pulling of that Sleiter and see how well that would work, and just see what the difference is. And I thought I'd share that with you. That way you can make up your own mind whether you like one truck over the other. Now when you get over here, you could go over the ice to the right, and there's a couple of dicey spots in there, like there always is. Or you can go over here. Now this part here is a little, it's a weird rocky area. I don't like it. Sometimes you get stuck in there in between the rocks. But we did okay with the Avenhorn and pulled it right through. And then back over here on the ice. I've driven on the ice here quite a few times, and about the only thing you should worry about is don't go too fast, especially over some of these big shards that are sticking out, because you can receive damage from them quite easily. Now both the Avenhorn and the Sleiter don't take damage that quickly. They can withstand quite a bit of punishment, but there's no point in pushing the limits, of course. Now we get to just up ahead here. You see, we're starting to run a little bit low on fuel in the Avenhorn. Now another reason why I really like the Avenhorn, especially when you're pulling a trailer like this, you got the fifth wheel, but you also got the big crane on there. But at the same time, you've got a universal compartment in there that's carrying an extra, I believe, 300 liters of fuel. There it is, 300 liters, a universal compartment. So we fueled them up and came back and picked up the Sleiter. Now we're going to move him up, and he's running low on fuel too. So we're going to fuel him up too before the Avenhorn goes up the hill. There's the port to Lake Riviere. ferry to Lake Riviere. And then here is the port warehouse, where these two cranes are. And they've even got a service center here where you can repair your vehicles on the corner there straight ahead. So if you come to the port, you got any damage in your tires or your transmission or your engine, you just drive into the service center and they repair everything to 100% new. Well, I tell you this, driving these trucks, and when you've driven them a little bit, you start to know the differences and feel the differences in when you're actually using them in the game. Like the Avenhorn being so low, having a very low center of gravity, and being as wide as a Sleiter, I'm not even sure if it might even be a little wider. It just seems to be really solid on the ground, whereas a Sleiter, being a bigger vehicle, more power, it seems to really want to jump and go sometimes. They just drive differently. And like I said earlier, when we came through this part here by the rocks with the Avenhorn, the Sleiter just so happened that it got stuck right in between the rocks here. I couldn't believe it. Right over here, she just got stuck, and I couldn't pull it through. I had to just back it up just a little bit. Must have been a rock stopping it from going, because it's not the power in the truck, I'll tell you. It climbs right over top of it now, like that. And that is another thing, whenever you're driving anywhere and you seem to get stuck or can't move or whatever, just a slight change in direction will break your truck or trailer free. So, you know, always try some of these other things, or you could even take the winch, and if there's something around, pull yourself back out of whatever problem you're in. Now we're going to just pull up beside the Avenhorn, fuel up, and then we're going to let the Avenhorn go up the hill, because he's going to be towing us the rest of the way once we get up top. Now we are getting close to where we need to be. First we'll get the fuel up. We'll take the last little bit out of the universal compartment, and we'll take the Avenhorn's Defender. Oh, now we're taking the trunk supplies. Okay, and it's time to go. Now, as you can see, there's a little gear wheel in the yellow diamond came on the screen. That is the repair shop. Repair shop where we got to go to. So it shows that it's close by, but we still got a little ways to go. As the crow flies, it's really close by. But we can't fly that way because there's too many rocks in our way, so we just got to follow the track, which the Avenhorn is doing very well. You always got to keep in mind about the off track, because if you're off a little bit and you drag the trailer past the rocks, there's not much of a problem. But sometimes when your off track's too far over, the rocks will stop you from dragging it past there if you're too far over. So a little bit of a turn like on these here is not really an issue. And when you get to the top here, just past those pines on the left, you got a turn where we got to hairpin it back to the right. You want to take that corner as wide as possible. Now be careful that you don't run off the edge, because just beyond there is the edge that goes right down to where they have some sort of a, I'm not quite sure what they have there, whether there's a warehouse down there or what. Anyhow, if you take this turn as wide as you can, you can go and do it in one turn without having to jockey your truck back and forth. Now your trailer might be dragging on the rocks a little bit there, but but it's fairly forgiving when you're going that wide. So you're going to be okay. Now I found out too, just up here, you got to stay to the left-hand side. I came through here once before, and I drove over top of the rock to the right-hand side, and there's a drop there, and I didn't realize that. So you stay right to the left, and you're okay. There again, like I said, every turn you take, don't forget the off track. And I have to keep saying that because I'm the worst one. I always forget about the off track, so I keep reminding myself, and hopefully one of these days it's going to stick. Now up here, we're back up to the highway. We're going to take a tight left, and then it's going to be just a short distance to the repair shop. But first we got to bring the slider back up yet. Although I tell you, this was a pretty long journey, but I think it's going to be well worth it in the long run, having those metal rolls available for us when we go to craft those pipes for some of the upcoming jobs that are going to be needing to get done. Now, we're in the slider, and we're going to see, because I think that was probably the toughest climb, or one of the toughest climbs that the Avenhorn's done, because it's pretty steep right at the beginning here. We're going to see how the slider is going to cope with that. The slider was pretty tough. He seems to be good. See, the slider, I think, has got a little more power, and he attacks some of these problem areas a little bit harder than the Avenhorn can. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that the other truck doesn't get the job done, and that is the most important part. Not how fast we get it done, but can we get it done? And then up here again, we're back to that turn. Now the slider is a little bit bigger truck than the Avenhorn, even though it looks to be the same, but the slider is a little bit bigger. We'll see how he takes the corner up here. I mean, after all, we are comparing them to see how they run. And I don't know if you can get much more of a direct comparison than this. Now, I know a lot of people out there, they do reviews and they show you how quickly the one truck will run up the hill, and they show you how quickly the next truck will run up, and one might do it in 2 or 3 seconds faster than the other. That's really not for me. I really don't well, they're fun, and if you like that kind of information, it's great. I feel I want to see how they perform out in the field. Now, we just drove through here with the Avenhorn, and you saw me do it, and now we're doing it with the slider, and you can feel the difference in the way that they pull through these corners and drive over the roads, and that is what's important. Because how do I know that you're ever going to have to both climb up the same hill, which is really, really steep, and then one only gets up there 2 seconds faster? I want to see how they perform here. This is what I need to know. But of course, everything has its own merit. There's a lot of good information in those reviews as well. I've watched them quite often and quite regularly. Now here we are again with the same old wide turns. Remember the off track. Well, I'd say, if I had to guess, because I didn't time it, but if I had to guess, the slider came up this hill quite a bit faster than the Avenhorn. So as far as I'm concerned, both of these trucks are very capable of what they've been asked to do. That's what's important to me. But we all play differently, and there is no right or wrong. Whichever way you like to play the game, that's the right way to play it. Now we're going to get back into the Avenhorn, hook up to the slider, and we're going to pull it down the road one more time. Boy, that's a a long truck train. That's an awful long truck train. There again, we're back on an ice road, so remember, you gotta go slow, even with a truck with chains on, because he'll still slide if the weight behind it is heavy enough, and you try to make the turn, it doesn't matter. That weight will push you straight. So we're just gonna take our time again. Try to take the turns as wide as possible. And here too, you're going downhill, so you don't want to give it too much throttle, because if you give it too much throttle, right over here, it will push you straight into the snowbank. So we're just going to let gravity take its course and pull us down, and then we're just going to slowly speed up as we're going back up the hill. Well, that looks absolutely the coolest. Pulling a big long truck with another trailer behind you like that. That's amazing. I'm not sure, I can't remember how many rolls of metal it takes to craft one pipe, but I'm hoping that 10 will be enough. Will be enough to do 2 or 3 pipes so that we can get the jobs done in the next few days. Just up ahead there, you can see, oh, it's going to be a little bit of a tight pole here by that pole. Boy, we don't want to mess this up now. Now that we're so close, we're almost done. We just got to make sure we put the metal rolls into the warehouse. The repair shop is right up here. We've got a few of our other vehicles up here because we've been driving back and forth a little bit from here. Working on a few of our jobs or contracts actually. Now we're just going to leave the Sleiter out here because I'm not going to be able to pull him over around that corner, that's for sure. So we're just going to leave him right about there, eh? And then we're going to pull him around in a circle, deliver the cargo, and then we're going to have to bring the Sleiter in here and deliver the cargo. And it'll be all ready for the next job. Right over here. Now we don't have a lot of room in the yard here, but we're going to try and pull it forward far enough, and hopefully that'll get the trailer out of the way far enough that we can bring the Sleiter in and deliver the cargo from there. And it should be okay. We should be able to get it all in there. Absolutely awesome. I really love this video. I hope you liked it, and I hope you got some good information out of it. I hope to see you back at Open Gaming again real soon. Until then, you've been delivering 10 metal rolls to the repair shop in Harbour, Quebec, with me, the Open.